When you join ASUG, you'll never face an SAP challenge alone again. We connect our members to exclusive educational opportunities and a community of like-minded peers, so you can get the most value from your SAP investment. Get smart fast and learn from the best. Stay on the leading edge of SAP practices and get access to the latest research, insights, and unbiased editorial and interviews from industry experts and your peers. Expand your network. ASUG makes up the biggest, most diverse, and most engaged SAP user group in the world. Any question or challenge you have, there's someone who's seen it before. Connect with a network of 130,000 plus SAP savvy professionals to solve complex business challenges, work smarter, and expand your SAP skills. Get set to lead. Improve your SAP expertise by collaborating with peers to solve business challenges and find innovative solutions. With 38 regional chapters, you and your teams can connect and meet with other SAP professionals and take advantage of dozens of speaking and leadership opportunities throughout the year where you can share your ideas. Become a leader in the ASUG community by leading a local chapter, joining our executive exchange, and participating in one of our 13 and growing ASUG Alliance groups, or make connections and learn at ASUG events. Keep learning, connecting, and growing with ASUG.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to Unlock a Smarter, Faster Path to SAP S4HANA and Rise with SAP. I'm Heather Lima, and I'm a content producer here at ASUG. Today's webcast will be recorded. You will receive a post-event email with a link to the on-demand recording, along with a link to the survey. Please take a moment to fill out that 2-question survey. It will also pop up on your screen after the webcast. We like to know what you think here at ASUG. If you have any questions, please enter them in that Q&A box. Any questions we don't get to on the webcast, we'll answer offline. So now I'll hand off the webcast to our speaker, Marissa Gilbert with ASUG. Marissa, take it away.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to have joining with me today Derek Oates, CEO of SmartShift, and Steele Arbini, CTO of S&P Group. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with me. I'm Marissa Gilbert. I'm the research director here at ASUG. So as Heather said, we love your feedback. I am the one who directly gets that. So please do take the time to take the survey after this. As, we look forward to your responses, as we do look forward to a lot of your feedback in our research and being able to then figure out your challenges and issues, which we're excited, or I'm excited to be joined today by Derek and Steele, so we can dig into some of those issues and hopefully get everyone on track in their migrations. Derek, let me turn it over to you. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your experience with SmartShift, obviously with S&P too, and IBM.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Marissa, I appreciate it. Happy to be here. Welcome the opportunity to have a discussion. Good to see you, Steele. I'm Derek Oates. I'm the CEO of SmartShift. I've been with SmartShift now for about 4.5 years, but I've been actually referring customers and partners to SmartShift since 2012. Before joining SmartShift, was actually the North American CEO at S&P Group. So obviously got a lot of experience working not only within SmartShift in code modernization, but also working with S&P from a data perspective. Before that, spent time with SAP inside their global COE from a database data management perspective, and also spent time at IBM. I was one of the global HANA COE leads there. Really excited to have this discussion. Steele, I'll hand it over to you for introduction.
Great. Wow. Thank you for that setup, Derek. Yeah, I've known Derek for quite a few years as well, and it's a great pleasure to be on a call like this with him, and at least see him virtually. I have to look forward to the events when we actually get together in person. So I'm Steele Arbini, Chief Technology Officer of S&P, which makes my primary responsibility the software products of S&P. So I work very closely with our customers and R&D teams to work on bringing new and innovative data migration and data transformation projects to market. And, you know, prior to that, I was in the .com space and building very large databases for a while, which brought in a lot of database experience as well, which we need for these mega customers. And at the time, it was the largest Oracle database in the world that we were working on. And also the online trading website that won 4 stars as the #1 trading website on Barron's Magazine. I was the chief architect of that as well. So I get luckily now to bring all that experience from .com, very large databases, and over 10 years at S&P together to help customers migrate and transform really in record time.
Awesome. Well, I think this is going to be a great discussion. You guys have a lot of history combined. I think there's going to be maybe some stories that we can dig out of both of you and all of your experience. And Derek and I have also collaborated on research. We specifically dug in to really understand organizations' challenges as they're migrating when it comes to custom code. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that. I mean, I can't not be on a webcast and talk a little bit about data, but we aren't going to show any on screen for you. This is really going to be more of a rich conversation between Derek and Steele. But first, let's talk a little bit about the partnership between SmartShift and S&P. Derek, obviously, you came from S&P, so I'm sure that's helped in building that relationship. But we see oftentimes your two companies working together. How does that work? Maybe Derek, you can start a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So as I said, I think in the intro, I've been referring customers to SmartShift since 2012. I've been referring customers to S&P since 2012, and maybe even before that. So, one of the things that always kind of perplexed me in a way was, when you talk about migrations and you talk about transformation, who had the bright idea of separating the building blocks to transformation? So it never made any sense to me, why code and data weren't happening in the same conversations. My time at SAP, I was responsible for executive sponsoring some of the largest migrations way back in the very beginning of HANA. And I always found myself having those same type of discussions, whether it be on the data side or the code side. And when people would ask me, the customers or the partners would ask me while at SAP, what would you do if you were us? It was always, S&P on the data side for automation and custom code on the code side, because quite frankly, I never had any complaints from any customers or partners in terms of being dissatisfied with what was delivered. And on the contrary, it was always just positive things about how it really impacted their solutions that they were able to provide with high quality and really quick efficiency. So it's just a natural thing. And as Steele mentioned, we've known each other for a very long time. And I think Steele, even at one of the Sapphires, you and I did a presentation together while I was at S&P. It's just a natural progression, and our partnership continues to grow. We'll be at S&P Transformation World this year over the summer. We're really looking forward to that. We're hosting a golf event there with S&P. So we've got quite a strong story together from a solution standpoint. And most importantly, from my perspective personally, we've got the relationships. It's always a lot more fun to work with people that you genuinely like to be around. And Steele's one of those guys. So I guess, Steele, you got a comment, or Merce, if you want Steele to comment on the relationship. That's kind of my perspective.
I was gonna ask, Steele, do you feel the same way? Is this a mutual?
No, definitely. It's always a pleasure to see these guys, and we really look forward to. I seek them out at the various events, even if it's just a few minutes to touch base, because I miss them, and it's good to get a chance to catch up and talk. And we do work together a lot in the field as well, and we have opportunities to touch base there as well. So it's really great, and we look forward to all the events coming up, Sapphire and Transformation World, and even this week we're at an event together, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the guys and also, but with the goal of moving this initiative forward, because to Derek's point, it's really in a lot of ways a match made in heaven. Why do customers have custom code? A lot of times for a strategic, regulatory, compliance-oriented, mission-critical process. And I can't recall any time I've seen custom code that didn't have data behind it, custom data especially. Now, so it's very easy to say, oh, you should leave all that behind. You should go clean core and leave all that behind. But hey, that's what I run my business on. I'm not leaving that behind. I need that. That's what differentiates me. So really, they have to go, and they have to go together. So it's really a match made in heaven, and it couldn't be with a better bunch of people.
That's great. It sounds like the relationship is dynamic and still a lot of opportunities there, which is great. And I'm sure as we flesh out this conversation, we'll figure out too more about the balance between working with both organizations. But I do want to talk a little bit about data. So ASAG recently published our 8th annual Pulse of the SAP Customer Research. 8 years now, we dig into really the challenges, the focus areas, preferences, and plannings for ASAG members as it pertains obviously to their SAP technology. And we see coming into 2025, the top 4 challenges. Actually, challenges as a whole have risen for ASAG members. So organizations are facing a lot. I think without getting into too much, we know there's just a lot of uncertainty and dynamic, and also changing technologies are coming fast to organizations. So they're facing a lot of challenges. Number 1 is budget. Maybe not too surprising. That's kind of an ever challenge organizations face and prioritizing. Moving to S4 is the number 1 challenge organizations are facing. I can't wait for 2027. I am ready for that that timeline. But that is really a top challenge organizations are facing, as well as integration, which has been a challenge for members for many years as we've been tackling this research. Steele, I'd like to turn this to you. Can you help us? Can you help ASAG members with their challenges? Often some of the challenges they face are technical, include integrating legacy systems with these new technologies like S4, but also managing the complexities of cloud migrations. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how organizations can tackle this, or, what's this mean to you, maybe?
Sure. Well, certainly, complexity will only increase, especially if you look where we are right now on the S4 and RISE migration curve. Depending on who you speak to, only 20 to 30% of the people have actually landed and are running in RISE. So there's a lot left to do. And it turns out that most of the simpler landscapes, those are the ones in that group that went already. So who's left? It's the complex monsters, multi-system, heavy customizations, which is exactly the area where, heavily regulated industries where SmartShift and S&P excel. So we're really positioned as a team to really help these customers. Number 1, get into RISE with the optimal footprint. What you don't want to do is, I tell everybody that they should go greenfield. This is the best approach for everybody. They should start from scratch, take 10 years, and spend $1 billion, and they should go greenfield. But in reality, who's going to do that, Derek, right? I don't know anybody that wants to do that. Nobody wants to go to their boss and recommend that. So selective data transformation, keep the best, transform the rest, pick and choose, bring over that mission critical code, that mission critical data, leave behind those divested organizations, but still be able to reference them in archive and decommissioned systems. This is really the optimal way to get there, because you get the benefit of greenfield with a simpler landscape, getting rid of the unnecessary data, but none of the cost and disruption, and you get the benefit of S4HANA right away. Why do you want to go to RISE and S4HANA, right? You want to use all the new AI stuff, business data cloud, machine learning, okay, great. If I bring over an empty system, guess what? The data, I have no data to train my AI on. How does SAP know you're going to buy pencils next? Because you bought pencils every month for the last 5 years. If you don't bring over that history, the AI, you got to wait 5 years to build up enough data for it to even work. So you've sabotaged the value of your whole project. So this partnership that we're talking about is really the key. Not just, we make the migration easier. It's not about that. We unlock the value of S4HANA. We enable you to get the value out of S4HANA right away.
Yep. And just so it's clear, S4HANA will help with more than pencil prediction, right? It'll
Right, that's
help
kind
with,
of a joke, but
yes,
when is the machine going to break? Is the customer going to pay or not, right? Like there's 100 places I want to use predictive analytics. And
Yeah.
when you talk to people about why they want to migrate, after you get past the date, which is never a good reason. If you're migrating for the date, you should pick a different reason or go to Rimini Street and get support. Don't migrate because of a date. But once you really peel that onion, it's like, oh, we want to become a digital business. We want to use predictive analytics. Okay, now that's the right reason. Well, let's show you how we unlock that.
Absolutely. So Derek, ASAG and smartShift, we collaborated on research for the past couple of years, really to understand the impact of custom code migration for SAP customers. And our research really pointed out that the top S4HANA migration challenges experienced include customizations within the old instances, as we've been talking about, lack of clear process documentation, the sheer amount of time it takes to complete the project, and then, of course, the attention it takes away from the team when they're diverting their energy and focus on their S4HANA migrations. Derek, can you dig in a little bit more into custom code for us and why organizations need to modernize? Why is it, such a priority that organizations should focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting because if you look over the last 10 to 15 years, even the philosophy of custom code and the impact has changed even from an SAP perspective. When I was at SAP in 2015, I remember very vividly, SAP's message was, hey, you don't really have to worry about all the custom code. You just need to focus on the priority one issues with the custom code. And that was before the notion of RISE, and that was before the real notion of really getting to the cloud. And now it's actually kind of encompassing all of it. It's not just the P1s, right? It's making sure that, A, you don't have a ton of technical debt sitting around that nobody's using, right? Like customizations that aren't used. A lot of people, maybe if you haven't seen the ASAP report that we worked on with you guys, at least 50 to 60% of the custom code can be decommissioned right out of the gate. The challenge is a lot of the customers don't even realize that. And without leveraging smartshift or automation to get a quick snapshot of what the custom code repository looks like, it takes a lot of work and effort to actually understand, because oftentimes within the customer space, the ones that were actually responsible for creating the initial custom code, they're no longer with the company, they moved on to another company or a partner. There's just not a lot of that historical in-house knowledge to help them even understand what they're using to begin with. And then back to the modernization front, right? Moving to S4 is just one step in digital transformation and one step in the transformation. The other part to that is I think Steele mentioned, when you look at the 20, 30% of customers that have moved to RISE, it's oftentimes in smaller systems. So the ones that are left are really the large and complex ones. And also the large and complex ones are typically multi-year transformations. It's not a one-year deal. It's typically a 3 to 5 to 7 type of scenario. And in that scenario, customers are going to be running dual landscapes for a while with ECC running on any DB or running on Suite on HANA while getting ready to go to S4. And without smartshift, there's really no way to keep the environments in sync unless you take a manual approach, which is obviously not the most efficient and also produces higher issues and higher syntax errors when it comes to a custom code standpoint. So the dual maintenance capability to keep one environment in sync with the next to avoid the dreaded freeze for customers, which if you went and you surveyed all the development managers across the SAP footprint globally, anytime you mention code freeze, it freaks them out because then they have to go to the business and tell the business when business needs new requirements put in that they can't do it because of the cycles around their development and promotion into production. So there's that. And then we haven't even talked about the notion of clean core and really the modernization. And the other thing I would say too is one thing that's changed also is it's not just a point in time, one single static move to S4. Because of the notion of getting from on-prem into RISE, or if it's even a hybrid cloud scenario where you're going to have some systems in the cloud and some systems on-premise, because there's many that won't be able to move fully to the cloud, like the regulated industries or the Army and the Navies in those situations, you're going to have a scenario where you now have to make sure that you're not only getting clean once, but you stay clean forever. So you have to have some type of processes put in place of when you're supposed to customize, when you do want to put things in, SAP BTP, when you do want to put things in some other type of container, it's what I'm trying to get to is it's not just a single point. Like you're not just going to wake up one day and say, oh, Nirvana, we're at clean core. That's not the way this works. You have to now switch. It's almost like a transplant. You now have to transplant the older school philosophy with the newer school philosophy, which is once we get to this clean core, we now have to put a process and specific automation around getting out of the ditch, staying clean, and moving forward, so that you can then be on the forefront of adopting innovation faster than your competitors. That's a huge change that we've seen over the last 10, 15, 20 years in SAP.
Absolutely. Steele, do you have anything to add to that?
No, this is why it's great to do these type of sessions with Derek, because the insight is great, and the change management is certainly an issue, and SmartShift certainly smooths that along for the customers on those multi-year, multi-wave projects. Because as we said, the ones that are left are big ones, and so we need to solve that problem, right? This is a problem that needs to be addressed, and it's one of the things that is holding people back from moving. It's the complexity. It's how do I keep what I need and get rid of what I don't? How do I even know what that is, as Derek said? How do I know what is the stuff I need to keep and what's not? Can you give me, analysis of my data and my customizations to tell me what code I need to bring and stuff? And certainly we look at all that with the customer, and that helps kind of smooth the journey. The question is not for a lot of them, do we move? It's okay, we've made the decision, we want the platform, but we're unsure how to get there. And this approach can certainly allow you to get there with maximum benefit.
Yeah. So from our collaborative research with SmartShift and ASEG, we did find, which probably is not too much of an aha, but successful migrations require time. It's an organization-wide effort, and effective strategies are necessary. But to your point, Steele, it's that change management that is sort of haunting everyone. And even with best intentions, sometimes if change management isn't effective at the organizations, these things can still fail. But it's also partnering with, the lack of a better term, right partners. Derek, why don't you share a few examples of how specifically SmartShift has helped customers on their S4 migrations and RISE? Can you tell a couple customer stories? I think that always adds nice context for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one in particular that comes to mind, I believe it's also with a joint customer with S&P. We've been doing work with BMW since 2017. We were selected back in 2018 as the code automation provider for all of BMW's systems. They have well over 70, if not more than that now. We've been working with them for a very long time. And the biggest reason and benefit that they saw with us was, given their large footprint, the amount of time that it would take us to optimize and modernize the actual code, going all the way back to even just Unicode conversions, was just so much more condensed than if you took a manual approach to it, right? And even just from an analysis standpoint, they had significant concerns around some of the code security stuff, right? Like it's great to be able to go in and decommission code that's not being used, but it's another thing to have to rely upon people only to identify where there's some security risk from a code perspective. And the fact is, and I think a lot of people realize this, the way we got into this spaghetti code nightmare was because it wasn't, there was a lot of customers that unfortunately didn't have the proper guidance around best practice development standards when it came to ABAP development from the beginning. Didn't mean that there weren't people that weren't doing it the right way, but the challenge is, when you don't have that proper vehicle in place and you have to rely upon manual intervention across security, across optimization, when HANA was introduced, you can miss some things. And so BMW saw us in the rule set that we have, and specifically within our meta model inside our software, that we could apply all of that in a fail swoop. And picture, a washing machine where you take, dirty code or non-optimized code, feed it into the SmartShift washing machine, and it applies all of the logic and rules from a security standpoint, all the logic and rules from a Hanatization standpoint with the readiness check and the S4 priority list. All of that stuff then gets spit out on the other side in a fashion that's much more higher quality, a lot faster, and much less dependent on any manual approach. And so That's one in particular. There's others as well. I think specific to ASUG, we do a lot of work with Pepsi, and we work very closely with Craig Dalziel and the team over there. We've been working with them, and I think that actually started around security concern, and now we're doing everything soup to nuts for them on the custom code as they've kicked off their S4HANA journey. But yeah, these are some of the things. And then, another customer I think that's very close to ASUG, we've done a lot of work with John Deere as well, and we've helped them with their transformation to S4, and now we're helping them understand the low-hanging fruit from a clean core perspective, which is very interesting, right? When we can show them, hey, look, there's a lot of buzz around clean core, but here's some real basic things that you can look at to understand, A, what clean core means to you specifically, and then B, the low-hanging fruit that you can attack piece by piece to show real quick wins and real quick value when there's a lot of the market that's confused about what it really is and what it means to them. And we're able to expedite and really show the benefit of what that is in small steps that are digestible.
Those are great examples, all great brands. John Deere, near and dear to my heart, grew up near the Quad Cities, so especially like that story. Steele, what about from your perspective, any customer stories you want to share building on some of those that Derek just shared?
Sure. Look, first of all, the point that I'd say is many of the customers that Derek mentioned, if not all of them, I think we're in together. So, we are addressing those problems from the code side and from the data side. And you have to remember, a lot of customers choose S&P because there's no other way to achieve what they need to achieve. It's not like a competitive situation where we came down to price and we won on price. No, there was no other way to do what they wanted to do. I give you a couple of quick examples. The largest software provider globally, number one, is using S&P to migrate their e-commerce, billing, and revenue management SAP systems to S4. It's a monster. It's the online stores, all the commercial accounts, and so on that have to be migrated. So there's a lot of data transformation, data changes. Also, a huge downtime requirement that the only way to achieve that is through S&P, especially when you add in their 100+ terabyte data volume. So, we've done over 15,000 of these, 15,000 projects globally over 30 years. And many of the ones we're solving are not possible any other way. So really what we're doing is collapsing a multi-year, multi-downtime, multi-disruption roadmap into a single event, a single outage, a single downtime, a single go live, single training cycle, and you're off and running on the new system. Even now, for a large aerospace provider, now, heavily regulated, compliance, all that, we did their S4 migration after the initial vendor had failed, was not able to deliver it. S&P did that, went live with that. Then they had non-SAP systems that they acquired over the years that they wanted to bring that data into SAP with all the history, because of course it's aerospace, so they need all that. Again, S&P, the only one that is able to even execute that. So it's really, we're unlocking all new business opportunities for these customers through this data transformation.
Fantastic. So I often hear from ASUG members, especially after we dig into a new topic in our research and sort of uncover, what it is, and we get to the point of now we understand it, now maybe I know why I need it, but the next steps are often less clear. How do ASUG members get started? What are the next steps? Steele, I'll turn to you first.
Well, we have a great offering, joint offering, S&P and smartShift. We have an automated scan that collects over 300,000 business and technical data points about your SAP system, including an add-on from smartShift, a quick code analysis that will give you the lay of the land of what your code impact is. So you get both the data snapshot and the code snapshot to help profile the data and the code, the usage and so on. That first question Derek brought up, what are we even using? And from the data point as well, plan and predict the outcome of the migration project. How to collapse those multiple projects into one. What can we do simultaneously? And it's really an eye-opening experience for the customer. And no one has that type of joint offering that uncovers so much right up front. You know, you go to your normal big consulting firm, what do they tell you? Oh, we need a 6-month study at the cost of several $1 million, and maybe we'll be able to answer some of this. The smartShift S&P team can answer this right away. So that's really a great way to get started, especially for ASUG members who can access that very, very quickly and easily.
Yep, that's fantastic. Derek, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think
and how to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Steele mentioned, we've got the joint offering. We've got the scans that we have. And again, we're in a lot of customers together. One might actually ask the question, wouldn't it make sense for S&P and smartShift to be the same company? And I've been saying that for 15 years, truthfully. I never,
is this an announcement? Are we having
it's not an announcement, but I'll tell you, it's something, and Steele's heard me say this numerous times, you know, it never made sense to me why you would separate the code from the data. It just doesn't make sense. There's too much synergy. There's too much economies of scale from a customer perspective that can really benefit them from looking at both items together, along with the business process optimization as well, right? This Ignavio, that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, it all starts with the scan. Whether or not it's you know, at the same time, but it's all about that, right? We need to get an analysis of
Right.
what the customer's doing, and then we start from there. And you know, it's interesting. It could be a scan for S4 transformation. It could be a scan for clean core. We've got some unbelievable stuff coming out at Sapphire relative to clean core that really digs into the dependencies of the customizations and the impact on, you know, back to standard. You hear everybody talk about back to standard, back to standard. It's like back in 2014 and 15, where everybody was talking about HANA and nobody even really knew what it was. And now it's like back to standard, back to standard. And what I mean by that is, you know, back to standard is I don't want to say it's an overused term because it's very important, but how do you actually get there? What are the beginning steps of that? And for us, and I believe also with S&P, it literally comes back down to the analysis up front that we do. One thing I want to comment on that Steele made a comment on was the non-SAP stuff, right? So we're looking at that as well. Underneath the hood of SmartShift, even though a lot of the rules and all of the metadata and the logic that's built through our transformation engine is SAP specific, we're also kind of agnostic. Like our technology will work in other technical landscapes. It's not just SAP. It's just we chose a long time ago to really focus on the ops and tactical stuff. But it's interesting because obviously you can't go into an SAP customer that doesn't have sprawling data and sprawling code everywhere. That's the typical norm, especially in a lot of these customers that, you know, have yet to move to RISE.
No, that's great. I feel like Derek, you and I keep getting closer. Like we're like trying to like get all of our secrets out here. But one thing too, and Steele, you touched on this earlier. Everyone is not everyone, but organizations are in different phases of their migrations, right? Like some might have migrated certain systems, but not all of them. When is the best time to get in touch with SmartShift and S&P? What's the best time? What's, you know, not optimal, but it still works sort of timing?
Certainly, you want to have that discussion before too many decisions are made, right? Because a lot of people are not aware of some of the opportunities that we bring to the table. Things that you thought may not be possible or might be too risky or take too long, so on, that you've already decided against it and moved forward, made some decisions that prejudice now our ability to make those changes. And you're really sabotaging the value and the benefit of your project when you do that. So you want to start early where we can jointly influence the decisions. Because remember, as I said, we've done 15,000 of these. We're the leader in selective data transformation for S4. We have approximately 70% of that market. 80% of the SIs, the global SIs, embed S&P software and smartShift as well in their solution. So this is the industry leading team. Let those experts that do this as part of their daily business, right? No customer migrates to Rise as part of their daily job, but we all do. Let them, benefit from their expertise. Let them unlock things for you. Let them show you what you can do simultaneously. How, when you get there, we can make your life much better. You'll get to some of that cleaner core. I don't say clean core anymore, Derek. I say cleaner. We'll get there. We'll preserve the data for regulatory reasons, decommission. For everybody wants AI data dominance, right? We're going to preserve that data. We're going to get it in a format that you can use it from your machine learning models and your training, both in and out of the SAP world. So really speak to this team so that they can help you plan the right way. This is really my most important recommendation. It's not when, like in January and February, it's not about that level of time, but it's about where you are in your decision-making cycle. Yeah. You want to talk to these guys, us guys, when we can influence your decision and help you make the best decision.
Yeah, if I could add just one thing, and I've seen this, and Steele mentioned the aerospace and defense vertical, and we were just out in San Diego at that show. I have now had a number of customers come to me that have already moved to S4 that didn't look at the custom code before they moved, and they realized they made a huge mistake. And partly because what's happened is they didn't decommission like they should have, and now they've moved all of that code, even the stuff that they weren't using, and just brought their old baggage / technical debt with them. Yeah. And it's very problematic for them. And so now we're engaging with a handful of those customers that wish they had done it before. And then on the other side, we have a customer, a very large manufacturer in the A&D space that just had to reformat and reboot their blueprint with their SI because they didn't look at the custom code before they started the functional blueprint. And again, this is not a one-off. This happens all the time. And it's because, I think we've talked about it here, some of the customizations, if not quite a bit of them, are differentiating for the business. They're not all garbage, right? There are some that can be thrown out, but there's others that need to be there. And the other thing is, if you think that the custom code problem will go away once you get to the cloud, then you must also think that the standard configuration is going to always be a fit for you, and that SAP all of a sudden found the magic button that's going to make every requirement in the software straight out of the box. And that's not the truth either. And that's why there's this different mindset that I talked about earlier. We now have great sponsorship within SAP and acknowledgement from SAP that yes, we want to get to a cleaner core. Yes, we want to get customers to the cloud. But no, that doesn't mean there's never going to be another customization requirement that's there and required for the customer. It's a different world that we live in for sure.
Of course.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of questions that have come in. Obviously, people recognize your expertise, and so they have lots of things to ask you. So do you guys mind if we dip into the Q&A? And obviously, shout out to everyone. If you have questions, drop them in. We'll get to as many as we can. If we can't get to them all today, we will follow up. First question, what are some of the concerns with selective data transformation, and how do you mitigate those concerns?
Okay, very good question. One concern is, since it's selective, what if I need something that you didn't migrate, right? Maybe customer calls I decide to bring 5 years of data, and then all of a sudden I need something 7 years out. What happens then? Oh, okay. It's a good question. Our answer for that, and we touched on it briefly a few times already, is decommissioning. We take the entire complete source system and give you a read-only copy of that on low-cost storage, no ERP licenses, and you can even see the data in your S4 system and look at it. You can't transact business on it, and you shouldn't want to anyway, but you can see it. So that eliminates a lot of concern of customers about data selectivity. How am I going to get only what I want? Right. And what if I, tell you 5 years and it turns out I need 7? We have a way for that, a solution for that. Another one is, of course, very topical for today. What about my custom tables, my custom data? Well, we handle all the custom data as well and can select in that as well. So you're only bringing over the custom data in the data selection that you need, time slice, by legal entity, by product line, whatever that data selection is. And the same for the code, right? With the smartShift team, we can together select not just data, but data and code that needs to make it to that target. Of course, downtime is a concern as well, and we have downtime minimization technology. We're the industry leader there as well. So, you know, what I can say is there might be many other concerns out there, right? But we've been in business over 30 years. I'm sure any concern that you might come to the table with, we have addressed and have built it in to our process, a way to address it. For example, customers may say, oh, I'm not going to have the time to test. How do I know you're going to migrate the right data on go live? Well, we plan for 3 trial migrations, 3 mock migrations before the go live. So you've seen the system 3 times already before go live. So it's uneventful at that point. So a lot of the process is built around reducing risk, eliminating these problems, and giving you a smooth transition.
Fantastic. Another question we have, your proposal for looking at custom code before a blueprint. Can you please elaborate this with an example to show how this is beneficial?
Sure, absolutely. So if you think about, you know, the effectiveness of a blueprint, right? When you're trying to gather requirements, if you don't take into consideration the custom code, even from a simple thing like decommissioning things that are no longer being used, if you're building a blueprint around customizations that you think are required, yet they're not because you don't have the proper view into how they've been used in the last 5 years, you could be creating effort that's not required. You could be solving for something with a custom code angle that could be solved for from a standard configuration standpoint in terms of the software changing. That's a specific example there where if you apply that to the number of instances that you might have in terms of the functional blueprint and all the different business requirements, you know, along with running, you know, Signavio to look at process automation, right? These are the things that you need to do up front, as opposed to, you know, migrating everything over, code, process, config, all of that. That all should be part of a blueprint to make sure that you're doing things in an efficient manner and that you're not wasting an opportunity, you know, to actually improve process straight up, right? Like that's the whole thing. And I know, you know, from my time back with S&P, and it's the same thing in the smartShift scenario too, these downtimes are very expensive. And so the more and more you can push into the downtime around functional value and real true business benefit back to the customer, it's going to make that downtime a lot less expensive. So if you're just taking small, certain little pieces of things, it's a shame if you leave the benefits on the table of being able to take back to the business of, yes, we're going to have the downtime, but instead of these 3 things, here's 24 functional advances that you're going to get, combined with throwing out customizations that are only going to drive up your total cost of ownership. These are things that are metriced inside large organizations that should be thought of for sure.
Yeah, you're going to take a bunch of disruption anyway, right? It would be a shame if you didn't get the most out of it, right? And I wonder what would you do, right? If you didn't look at the code in the blueprint, what would you say? Oh, bring everything. How would you even quantify your remediation effort? Like how, you know, it's a potential landmine waiting to be stepped on, right? It's definitely could lead to some issues.
Yeah, we do not want to step in the landmines.
No,
we want to avoid those, but we do want to lean into the disruption for sure. Can you guys elaborate further on why data or code assessment ahead of the migration plays a critical role in S4 transformation processes?
You want to go first, Derek?
You can take that and I can go after either way.
Sure. Look, I mean, it's kind of similar to what Derek just said about the code. You're going to plan this migration. It's going to be big. It's going to potentially or could optionally include a lot of changes that could be very beneficial. It's a chance, it's an opportunity to get lean and mean and to be ready for what's coming. Okay, so if that's the mindset that you're going into this with, then you certainly want to maximize the benefit that you get. Don't you want to know everything as much as you can? Get all the data points you can before you take that step. What would the alternative be? Okay, we know we could get a lot of extra information, but we're not going to look there. And hopefully when we get to the other side, then we didn't box ourselves in and we can figure it out then. This is probably not the best way to do it, right? You would want to see what you could layer in there as part of the transformation, as part of the migration, both on the code side and the data side, and take advantage of all of that. Wouldn't you want to, we see two big approaches, two like large methods. Some people say, migrate now, transform later. Get me there, and we'll worry about optimizing everything later. Well, that's going to be a lot of downtime, a lot of disruptions, phase 3, phase 4, phase 37 projects till you get to your desired end state. The alternative is migrate and transform in one shot. Get to your desired end state right away. And then you unlock the value of S4HANA. You could start using it the way you want to, not wait till phase 37 is over. So that's really why you want to look at this before those decisions are made.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that in our research too, those that have migrated, whether that be or migrating on S4 or adopting BTP, they're not getting the full benefits from these offerings yet, because I think to your point, Steele, they made the migration and they're sort of like, we need like a pause. And so then it's, and it's that change management element too, that's really not getting implemented throughout the organization. So lots of things.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, more questions. So we talked a lot about, maybe a lot of the moves have been organizations that are a little smaller, maybe the simpler things. One of the questions is specific about handling large scale transformations. What are some good strategies the business should adopt to ensure data integrity when handling these large scale integrations and transformations? Word salad. Some strategies businesses should adopt to ensure data integrity.
Derek, I monopolized the last question, so I want to, because I'll talk all day, right?
I know. I mean, look, I think we've kind of already hit this one too, right? I think we have. I think it's just, in my mind, and this is just what I've always believed, that nobody seems to talk about the reference architecture anymore, right? That's something we heard a while back. Like, what is the reference architecture? And now it's specifically around, hybrid cloud and BTP and RISE and all these different things. You have to figure out a way to make sure that you have the data that you need when you move forward in this type of reference architecture in the hybrid cloud scenario. And obviously, I know that through my time at S&P, from a data standpoint, I think it's Keanu now. Keanu, right, Steele?
Yes, we're going through a rebranding. Yes.
Yeah, back in my day, it was Crystal Bridge, and I think I'm the only one.
You can still say Crystal Bridge. You can still say it.
Yeah. So I know that there's a lot of data checks and integrity checks built into not only the process at S&P, but also the software. And the same thing from a smartshift code standpoint. We've got checks and endless amounts of checks incorporated in the software that once you feed the code into the smartshift washing machine, that it spits it out and it's certified and ready to roll. That's kind of the deal from an integrity standpoint. But again, it always working towards this reference architecture. And obviously, if you've got security lapses, whether it's code or data, or you've got issues, you have to catch them up front. And that's one of the reasons why people continue to choose smartshift from a code standpoint and S&P from a data standpoint.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, last question. We have talked a little bit about RISE specifically within the context of S4, obviously, but this is certainly an area I think where still members might have some misperceptions about it or misconceptions. What would you guys say is the #1 misconception that you hear from your customers about RISE? and maybe how do you address that?
Well, I mean, for me, it's confusion about what really is it, right? Because it's a lot of things. A lot of things are thrown under the banner of RISE. Is it? It's a contract, okay, but it's also a set of standard offerings in terms of virtual machines and infrastructure. And there's also some managed services that go along with it. So it's a lot of things in there that make up the umbrella.
We just lost Steele.
Of RISE. So, times I hear is, oh, my customizations, my custom code is not going to be allowed in RISE. Not true. But you hear that all the time. Somehow that got in people's mind. I mean, I think, there are those out there that might wish you didn't bring it, but it doesn't mean you can't bring it. So there's an awful lot of just confusion about what it really is. What do I get? Who does what? And when? And that's, it just needs a little demystification there.
Yep, absolutely. Derek, any last thoughts on, or comments on RISE anyway?
No, I just think that it's very important. The one thing I would say is make sure that you're working with SAP along with your partners, because there is multi components to the RISE discussions. And I do think there is a lot of demystification that needs to occur, because I talk to customers all the time and they're confused on what it actually is, and Steele kind of highlighted that. We're working very closely at SmartShift with SAP, a lot of the executive sponsors at a lot of the largest customers, a lot of the global account directors. We've got a lot of experience. We're now actually integrated into cloud application lifecycle management, obviously COM. Just make sure that you're leveraging the resources that you have from a customer perspective across the entire chain, right? SAP, the partners, the user groups, that kind of thing, because I think that will help clear up. I mean, here's the thing. If you are a customer has questions about RISE and different components, there are no dumb questions, because there's customers that have all probably felt and had the same type of question. And it's important that you get comfortable and understand exactly what it is and how you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, and you guys both said it, which I sometimes forget too, even especially with being with ASAG and in the user group. We talk about S4 all day, every day. But our members are focused on their business and what their business goals are. And they're creating, POP, because I'm in the Midwest, or cars. And that's really a lot of their focus. They're not thinking about all the SAP offerings and things like that. So such a great point to reiterate, in that we are, ASAG is, S&P and SmartShift and partners and SAP are the great resource for our members and to help you make those moves. That's fantastic.
I had to remember what POP was for a second.
POP, Midwest.
Back in the day in the Northeast, it was tonic.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any parting thoughts? We are about at time and want to make sure everyone can get to their next meeting, but appreciate everyone's time. This has been a great conversation. I can't get any closer to my computer to hear all the great things you guys are sharing. Any parting thoughts for everyone? Again, what should they do? What's next?
I would just say leverage this team. Between our joint teams, you're honestly looking at centuries of experience in these complex migrations. For the largest customers in the world are choosing this team that you have right here. This is the A team, and they have a lot of offerings, a lot of expertise that they'd love to talk and share with you. Yeah,
we look great for being centuries old, though.
Well, I didn't say it was only me.
Derek, what about you?
Just the last thing I would say. Yeah, just the last thing I would say is leverage the network, right? It's one thing to be, part of a company, but it's another thing to be part of a community. And don't just reach out to SmartShift for code things. Seriously, I've been in this for a long time on the code side, on the data side, on the SAP side, on the SI side. I'm happy to point you to folks in my network that you may not be already connected to, because I really do believe that there's a lot of strength in community and knowing through personal relationships the go-to people that you may not be in touch with. I think that's really important.
Perfect. So Derek will share his cell phone number with everyone after this meeting. Give him a call.
24/7.
24/7, yes. No, but seriously, thank you guys both so much. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Steele. You guys had some great and your historied experience in the industry, and I think this is really going to help our ASEG members. So thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Marissa.
For your
Thank you,
time
Derek.
today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always good to see you guys.